Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. It's Friday. It is August the 29th, and we're going to have to do a tight show today because I got to get on the road, and I got to go talk to DOJ attorneys, which doesn't sound like that much fun. And per our attorneys on the FBI side, these are FBI employees and myself and former FBI employees, we found out that we're not very close when it comes to settlement terms. In other words, even though the FBI decided to fire the guy who did the things that we allege the FBI did, and therefore brought a lawsuit, they're not willing to settle. This is more evidence that our government continues to protect itself, that the people that run it and the people that actually make the government work are the people in the middle level management. They're the ones that make the decisions. The people at the top get insulated out, so they go out and do talking things, or maybe they fly off to Scotland. Why the hell is our FBI director in Scotland and not telling anybody why he's in Scotland? He's on our private jet. It's pretty expensive. It's like a $60 million aircraft with an entire protective detail of 30 agents that have to go out there and keep an eye on him. What's he doing? Well, we've had some information that it's possible he's in timeout. He might be hanging out like at a Trump golf course or something. He's just got to get away because he created a PR nightmare. And then he made it more interesting because yesterday I found out by talking to a podcast host and a podcast producer that I was being sued by Cash's girlfriend. Fun things on that. We're going to go through the lawsuit real quickly. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because what a weird thing to do. And I'll show you why. Way to Streisand affect that one, Director Patel. Goofy moves. We're going to cover some other stuff too. So we're going to go into the shooter sort of ongoing cover up. Fox News has a new take. It's not just about guns. It's actually about weed. That's what I was thinking. When I saw a transgender person dressed as a woman with male anatomy, mom helped him change his name at the age of 17. When I was like, oh, is it possible that he was smoking weed? Sure. Fox News continues to be super relevant and helps their version of the cover up. If anything, we can scapegoat it. And then maybe the end result should be that we have more AI. If we could just get AI threatscaping, Americans who are willing to trade their liberty and their privacy and their freedoms for safety probably deserve none of those things. And we do live in a world where some people will call for that. So we're going to talk about all those things. First, we're going to talk about the folks over at Patriot Protect. Speaking of privacy, why don't we do that? They've got some talking points that I always go over. There's password breaches on regular basis. There are people that are trying to compromise your data. If you guys don't want that to be something that can affect your lives, go to patriot-protect.com/Kyle. Use the promo code Kyle, 15% off annual subscription. It'll cost you something like $6 or $8 a month. It's not very expensive. It's like a cup of coffee at a fancy Starbucksy place that you will end up spilling, one time out of 12. The fact is that they're constantly finding cyber actors. We just saw a post by the FBI director who's not in the country and is just like reposting things from the FBI's main Twitter page. They went after this operation. It's called Salty something or other. It's a bunch of cyber actors that are out there hacking and compromising. This is a nonstop thing. It happens at the nation state level. It happens at the individual level, and it happens at the commercial level as well. Whether they're trying to scam you and get your name and your password, whether they're trying to get your financial information, whether they're trying to get sensitive information to lean on you like an intelligence AG might want to do that. They could do it to government employees. They could do it to people that are in the private sector that know things that are interesting. It's all worth protecting. It's all worth getting your name out of that pile. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Check them out. We're going to have Skip come on maybe in the next week or so and kind of break down some of these cyber attacks. Like I said, there's always a new one in the news. I just saw one yesterday. So we'll get into all those things in a future time. Let's get into today's program right now. So, my friends, I'm going to give you guys the option. This is something that happens. Somebody told me they don't like the live format of the show because they can't go back and watch it while it's live. Well, here's the deal with the live show, folks. If you're watching it over on Rumble, you can rewind it. If you're watching it over on YouTube, you can rewind it. And as far as I know, even though X is a little bit twitchy about that stuff, I think you can actually rewind a live show at the time there too. So up to you guys where you go watch us if you want to see us in the live show, and I'm more than happy to have you on, and I think it's great. The fun thing is we get to interact just a little bit just like this, and I get to see the chat mods and what you guys have to say about what's going on. What you'll notice is that we're growing subscribers over on YouTube, and we're growing over on Rumble, albeit slowly. We continue to have a vigorous discussion that is oftentimes outside even what is being discussed on the screen or on the program. So if you guys ever want to be part of it, come in for the fun. People always say you come for the podcast, you stay for the chat. I find out that most of the people that sit in our chat in the mornings end up listening to it a second time. So I'm appreciative of all of you guys that come in and do that. Give you guys the option today, because I'm leaving this on the screen right now. Do you want to start covering some news stuff? Because I've got some Trump's good and bad from the administration, and then I've also got this lawsuit thing. And we could touch either one first, but we're going to kind of try to move through with an expeditious sort of option. Give you guys the option, chat, if you want to see lawsuit or if you want to see stories, and I'll get queued up to do either one as we kind of sit here and watch. Some little housekeeping here. If you're not supporting the program, you can do so right here. This is the easiest way to do it. Subscribe at either Rumble, X, Locals, YouTube. You can do a notification if you guys are so inclined. You can always give us a like on the videos, which we appreciate. Bumps us up in the algorithm. We've been making the leaderboard on a regular basis with Rumble, despite the fact that Dan Bongino is one of the main practitioners over there, or whatever, one of the main owners. And so we appreciate you. And that's, I think, you guys beating the algorithm here. A lot of people saying lawsuit, so we're probably going to do that. If you guys want to back us up financially, I just saw we picked up some additional folks that are sponsoring us or part of the sponsorship over at KyleSerafin.com. You can go and join the locals, and we appreciate you guys over there. And I just loaded something up for you guys, which will come into play when we talk about the shooter story, which I will touch on today one way or another. But I uploaded the manifesto video. If you guys haven't seen this, there's an entire video of this kid paging through, young man, whatever, paging through his notebook. And some people say, well, are we going to ever see it? The answer is that because we did some internet sleuthing early and because people went out there and grabbed it, you do have the ability to see it. I ripped it off the web. It's about a 20-minute video. If you guys want to look through it, you can watch it quickly or you can skip around in it. It's over at KyleSerafin.com. It's free to you. There's no, you don't have to be a subscriber. It's not my information. But I did want to make sure that we archived it, cataloged it, and sent it out there. So if you guys want to go watch what this guy was about and read through his thing long form and see in his own words, Cyrillic and all the other crap, then you can do it there. All right, I heard a number of things about lawsuits, so we're going to go into the lawsuit thing. Okay, so I found out about this yesterday. There's a guy named Bob Shillman, and I know Bob because I met with him at the request of James O'Keefe. This is how weird my little life is. James O'Keefe asked me to go and sit and have dinner with him and one of his major donors. Bob Shillman is one of those people. He also has a podcast, and his podcast producer reached out to me yesterday, asked me about doing a time. I said, sure, anything except this Friday coming up because I'm going to be in Houston, and I got to go and sit down for this mediation. And his response was, oh, already? And I said, what do you mean already? And he says, well, because of the lawsuit. Of course, he's talking about this lawsuit, which I didn't know. And then he sent me the documents to find out that Kash Patel's girlfriend, I'm going to put that in air quotes because it's not really Kash Patel's girlfriend suing me, sues ex-FBI agent and online commentator over allegations she was an Israeli spy, which is not exactly what I said, as you guys know. So we're going to get into the details of it right here. This was immediately picked up by Eugene Volk, and I don't know who this guy is, the Volk Conspiracy, but I swear to God, I've seen him on our program recently. I feel like I covered one of his stories. So here's what he says. I'm going to read words directly from the complaint. From the complaint. By the way, he doesn't even have an article here. He just copies and pastes the lawsuit. From the complaint, Wilkins v. Serafin. It's in the Western District of Texas, filed yesterday. That was the day before yesterday, so it was done on the 27th, one day after Kash Patel's people decided to promote something. We'll kind of get into the goofiness of this. Defendant Kyle M. Serafin has maliciously lied about Alexis Wilkins, falsely asserting that she, an American-born country singer, is an agent of a foreign government assigned to manipulate and compromise director of the FBI. Actually, I didn't say that she's assigned to do anything. I have no idea what she's assigned to do in her life. That's her life. Defendant, former FBI agent himself, now makes a living as a podcaster and political commentator, profiting from controversy and outrage. That's up to you guys to decide, but that doesn't seem like my brand at all. And is using a fabricated story as self-enriching clickbait, and has spread this to his sizable audience that follows his daily broadcasts on X, Rumble, and YouTube. So thank you for all of the sizable audience out there, recognized by the FBI director as being sizable. Accordingly, Ms. Wilkins seeks to hold the defendant accountable for his malicious and knowing lies. There's a couple problems with that. Number one, I don't know about any lies. And number two, you have to prove damages. We live in Texas. That's weird. And I don't know what the damages are when you yourself and your boyfriend went out there and promoted the story far bigger than it ever would have been. I think we had something like 10,000 views on our Rumble channel with Steve Friend for the last Friendly Friday that we did. And then one of Kash Patel's buddies went out there and picked up a piece of that podcast, okay, and grabbed it in such a way that she clipped it out and then she punched it out to the internet, and it was promoted by people who are friendly to Kash Patel to see how scandalous and how crazy and how wild. Look at this Seraphin guy. And that's what we call the Streisand effect. Now, I'm talking about this woman called Toria Brooks, who I've never met. People who've met her said that she's, I've had mixed opinions about her. But the fun thing is that Garrett O'Boyle got to meet her at a Kash Patel event, at a Fight with Kash event. And so the person that made this story a story in the first place, because it wasn't, is in fact someone who is either affiliated with, works on behalf of, somehow like promotes the Fight with Kash Foundation, which is in fact the same group that runs the law firm that's coming after us. Let me say that real specifically. Kash Patel has been working with the Fight with Kash Foundation. Now he's the FBI director. He's friends with Jesse Banal. Jesse Banal runs the Banal Law Group. The Banal Law Group either facilitates, manages, or otherwise houses or operates the Fight with Kash Foundation. And I'll show you because they have the same exact address. And I got a freaking check from them. And when we were asked, hey, how do we donate to the Fight with Kash Foundation? You have to do it to the Banal Law Group, courtesy of the Fight with Kash Foundation. It's all one thing. These are all one entities. And the woman who's out there pushing this story is in fact at a Fight with Kash event, and here it is. I didn't check the audio, so stand by.
Tell me, what does the Kash Foundation mean to you?
America first.
Oh. So this is a hype video. It was on Rumble. I pulled it. There's Kash hugging people. Oh, there's Alexis in there. There's other people, whoever they are. Survey, super cool. A lot of food, a lot of money spent.
The Kash Foundation is doing incredible work. I'm a big fan.
Okay, there's Toria Brooks, and it sounds like that's Alexis Wilkins.
This is our best opportunity of any organization out there right now to fight back against bureaucratic Washington, D.C.
Sure. Okay. So it's a hype video. It's made with this woman running around wearing some like dangly thing. If you can go to her Instagram, if you guys want to see what it looks like when she wears like a bunch of like low cut dresses and hangs her boobs out for people. So you can go do that. And so these are the people that are out promoting this story and running this hype video. Again, the Fight with Kash Foundation is somehow associated with her. She's at multiple events. I just saw another one where she was at it. And of course, they're out there promoting this. There's Garrett O'Boyle. Look at our boy. What's he say? Oh, he missed it. There's Alex Stein. Sorry. I was going to turn up the volume on it. All right. So we'll go back over here and we'll read a little bit more of this lawsuit. The lawsuit, the complainant says Seraphin stated on his last show of the on last week or whatever, stated this last week on his show. There we go. Kash Patel has his own little honeypot issue that's been going on of late. We are just acknowledging it real publicly. He's got a girlfriend that's half his age. Apparently, he's both a country music singer, a political commentator, friend of John Rich through Dan Bongino, now owns a chunk of Rumble. These things are all true. She's a former Mossad agent. In what looks like the equivalent, or what is the equivalent of their NSA. And I'm just reading their words here, which are apparently my words that I haven't checked. And I'm sure that's totally because she's looking for a cross-eyed, kind of thickish built, super cool bro who's almost 50 years old, who's Indian in America. Has nothing to do with the fact that we're like really close to the Trump administration. I'm sure it's just love. So she's gone out there and talked about this a whole bunch, folks. A lot. A bunch. And here's the lawsuit itself. And so what have they said? They want to do the jurisdiction here. There's no question about citizenship. The interesting thing is they're hammering home that she's an American born in the United States, a patriotic, conservative, Christian country music singer, published writer. She's 26 years old, by the way, who worked for a conservative advocacy organization and educational company called PragerU. She's a long-term relationship with Kash Patel, began in January of 2023. So they're establishing that she is, in fact, said girlfriend. And then they go and describe me, special agent in the counterterrorism division. I never worked in the counterterrorism division, and you'd think that her boyfriend would know that because he's the director of the FBI and has access to things. I'm now a self-described podcaster. Apparently, this is not a podcast. I'm only describing it as a podcast, so I hope you guys enjoy that. I'm a quote-unquote whistleblower, something that Kash Patel would have agreed with when he wrote me checks, and his foundation sent me $10,000. I'm a recovering FBI agent who trades on his insider knowledge of the FBI and experience in law enforcement. Those things are true. I think that's true. That's why we know that, Kash Patel is hanging out. Where is that guy right now? There he is. There he is. Kash Patel is in Scotland. He's still in Scotland. And he's been there since Sunday night. What is he doing in Scotland? Why is he hanging out there? Again, some of the reporting we hear says that he had to take some time off and go away. All right, so we're going to go back into this lawsuit. Let's see. I host the Kyle Seraphin Show on YouTube and Rumble and my own website. I actually don't host it on my own website, but that's okay. I have X number of followers over on X. Tens of thousands of people watch it. More people will watch it because of this. Thanks, guys, for Streisanding us. Apparently, I solicit donations via YouTube Super Thanks contributions. Folks in the YouTube chat, feel free to let me know if you've ever been solicited for a YouTube donation or Super Thanks contribution. That would be good because that's factually inaccurate, too. Anyway, it goes on to say the things that they say. I don't identify the defendant by name. I don't identify Miss Wilkins by name, but it's obvious who it is because that's who they said. Because they attribute her to being in a long-term relationship. And all right, so then they go on to some other things. And then they said that, because I actively trade on being a counterterrorism law enforcement officer, you guys let me know if you've ever heard that, but I don't think that's the case. But I am a former special agent of the FBI. I should know better. I should know exactly what's going on here and that my words have to be really critical. So here's the best part. The defendant cannot claim ignorance or negligence because he has personally met Miss Wilkins with Mr. Patel at a conservative political event roughly 2 years ago. I have absolutely no idea what that event was. I don't know that that's true. I think it's actually not true. You'd think you'd remember. And if that was the case, it was she was never introduced as a girlfriend. I have no idea who that. I've never seen her in person as far as I know. Maybe they have photographic evidence otherwise. And it'll be some event where I met like 100 people and I didn't know. She's not even Jewish, much less Israeli, and she's never set foot in Israel. And so she's not now, nor has she ever been an agent for an intelligence agency. And the notion that her relationship is some sort of plot against her country is vile and ridiculous. Well, nobody made those claims either. But let me just tell you guys a little bit about the way that things work when we start asking questions about, what are they doing? They're just hanging out there with President Trump. That's cool. I'm going to explain to you what the word asset or agent means because it's not universally accepted. The word agent, when you talk about being a federal agent in the United States, means that you're a W-2 employee, that you work on behalf of a government. You are a special agent or a limited agent of said government. But that's not how intelligence operatives, that's not how intelligence agencies use the word agent. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In the law enforcement world, we talk about sources, and a source is someone that I get information from. In the intel world, we can have sources, but we often refer to them as assets or agents. An agent, and you can even do a query yourself using whatever the model, I think it's ChatGPT or whatever Google AI is. Is it Gemini? It says to the CIA, and by the way, this is broadly across the intelligence community, an agent is a foreign national recruited to provide intelligence to the agency and not an agency employee. The term is often confused with CIA officer or case officer or case, whatever, they have other words for it, which is the official title for the CIA employee that actually collects and analyzes. The definition of an asset or agent is a foreign national who's not a U.S. citizen and spies for the CIA. And by extension, you can imagine that a foreign asset or agent, because a lot of this is going to hinge on words because of how stupid this is, a foreign asset or agent is going to be someone who works for a government that's not yours. Like you think the United States goes like, we need to have an American in Syria to be able to get things done in Syria. No, they recruit a Syrian who may have never been to the United States, likely has never been to the United States. Probably doesn't share our religion, may share some values, but maybe they're interested in something else. And here's something really funny. Key distinctions. The crucial difference is citizenship and employment status. An agent is often a foreign national. They say is always, but it's not always. It's just often. And there's someone who provides intelligence. Isn't that interesting? What are the motivations you could use? I almost talked about this yesterday or the day before, did I not? Motivations can be ideology. It can be money. It can be greed. It can be coercion. It can be that you are being handled indirectly. This is something that the Chinese like to do. They do this thing that's called a co-optee, which means that you don't work for an intelligence agency and you don't even work for the asset that is out there. You've been co-opted for various reasons to do things, whether you know you're working on somebody's behalf or not. You're going to hear more about that on the Sunday sit down with Bill Taylor, who spent many years working against the Iranian threat. And what's really interesting, the Iranian threat is primarily a thing called counterproliferation. Counterproliferation means that you're buying technologies that you're not allowed to have in Iran. So what do? They go to a third party in a third country, and they get American businesses who would be known as assets or agents They're being manipulated by this third party, which is also an asset or an agent, to buy things from the U.S. company. U.S. company knows nothing worse. They're not nefarious, but they are in fact providing things that are either dual-use technologies, or maybe they're specific to the military. Maybe they're specific to a guidance system or nuclear engineering or whatever, centrifuges and all this kind of stuff. So they'll sell those parts over there to this third country. Third country turns around, gives it back to Iran. And now you have this deal where we are proliferating a technology that's not supposed to move. And everybody gets investigated. It doesn't mean you have any wrongdoing, even if you're a part of that chain. And this hinges on words, which is what this lawsuit is all about, which is kind of silly. In any case, the fact that they decided to highlight it is pretty wild. And then again, as I said, it's going to be very fun. Okay, so first let's go to the lawsuit real quick here at the bottom, because I want you guys to see this. All right, so this was filed by the Banal Law Group, Jesse Banal and Co. And this one is filed by Jason Greaves. And they are at 717 King Street, Suite 200, Alexandria, Virginia. That's just relevant because that's where the law firm is. And then we go over here, and here's the Fight with Cash Foundation. And they'll still solicit money, even though he's the FBI director and all that's weird. I'm sure he's divested himself. There's a couple of really fun things on here. Let's look at the news that they cover, because I saw this yesterday and I thought it was amazing. Because this other guy is going to be in the news with us today. Kash Patel, Israelis can't take on Iran alone. It's very, very important to him. He goes on with as a panelist with Aaron Cohen. Aaron Cohen, whose name you might have heard last night, or you might have heard yesterday if you're watching social media, who's introduced a new AI tool that's going to come after and revolutionize the way that we spy on Americans. I mean, look for threats on social media. Okay. So then you can donate. They're still asking you for money. They haven't popped up on the donation yet, but they will. And then you find out, well, what if we want to contact them? Let's contact them. Where will we do it? It's the Kash Patel Legal Offense Trust at 717 King Street, Suite 300. They're the suite next door. I'm sure it's just a mailbox issue. Okay. They are the same entity in the same building as the Banal Law Group, which filed something against me. So all that's really fun. And here's another little thing. If you want to go to the Fight with Cash Foundation, they are actually in the same suite, that 300, again, 717 King Street in Alexandria, Virginia. This is their publicly put out information on their website. This is where you can go and send a contribution. I've solicited contributions for them. We tried to help them out and build it up. So all that's really interesting and fun. This is the entirety of the story about me, by the way. This is it. Now you're wondering, did you just come up with this on your own, Kyle? No, it turns out that the Times of India covered this. Kash Patel's girlfriend dragged into Epstein case. Why would she date a not so attractive Indian American? You can go through here. You can find all kinds of things that they refer to as a major MAGA meltdown. Conspiracy theories, like Trump dropped the Epstein case altogether, that he was named in the files. Epstein was a Mossad agent. All these things have been speculated here. Now FBI Chief Kash Patel's girlfriend singer, Alexis Wilkins, has been dragged into the conspiracy. It's a viral post that claims that she works for an NGO that's basically Israeli intelligence. Refers to her as a classic honeypot. Plus, she's 26 and he's 40 flag. Red flags all over the place. That post was done by this Simon Godek. It got like 1.7 million views. There it is on the screen. I've archived it because this is the case. There's another one you guys can find. And by the way, it looks just like this. This one is a post that has 1.3 million views. Now, again, I think on a good day, we get, maybe tens of thousands of views. These are millions. I'm assuming these people are going to see their name in a lawsuit pretty soon, right? By the way, this is major post full of all kinds of wild stuff, all of which are the things that we talked about the other day. Born in Boston, somehow grew up in Europe, came back and became a country singer out of nowhere. Doesn't have a country accent when she speaks. We'll play you some of that as well. Lots of questions. She was working as a press secretary for a Muslim Syrian American Republican out of Arizona for 2 months. She was the press secretary for exactly 2 months for some reason. Here you have it. She served as the press secretary for Congressman Abe Hamadeh. Is that how you pronounce it? I think so. Abe Hamadeh. He got into some trouble in Arizona as well. January 2025, February 2025. Weird, okay? And the question is, why did she stop? He was an Army captain. He's still like in the sort of same role that you found like Tulsi Gabbard. So he's still an active reservist kind of deal. And then you get over here. Oh, well, Kash Patel became the 9th director of the FBI February 20th, 2025. Maybe it was a conflict of interest to be a boyfriend and also work for a congressman. I don't know. This happens all the time, by the way. So what happens? And when you're in the world where I used to work and you see what people look like when they've been tasked with things, you got questions. Here's another story. This is not new. I'm certainly not novel. MAGA musician denies any influence over the FBI chief. Yeah, your girlfriend never has any influence over you. Kash Patel's girlfriend, 26, addresses their 19-year-old age gap. This is Daily Beast, like tabloid stuff. Then there's some fake stuff out there. And one of these things is pretty interesting. This one falsely claims that Alex Wilkins is the same person as Maria Straight. There's a lot of or Marissa Straight, rather, who's the CEO over at PragerU. There's a lot of those out there. And I saw them multiple times. This is something that has been repeated, and you can find it pretty regularly on the internet that people say things that are false or wrong, and they mix things up. But you could see why they might mix that up. You've got two pretty women. They have like 9 years in between them as far as age goes. Similar eyebrows, similar facial shape, similar chin shape, different color hair. Sure, smile's a little different. Got it. Both clean spoken. Both work for the same organization, which is a very pro-Israel organization known as PragerU, which people allege has intelligence ties. I don't have any proof of it. Neither do you. But again, she was working for this guy. It's Congressman Abe. Remember, we played this for you yesterday. Just telling you, it's a reasonable set of questions to ask. This is you're a press secretary. By the way, that usually the press secretary job usually is someone who works in the campaign, comes up in the campaign, then the person, they're like a comms director or something. Then that person ends up being elected. And then you transition and you get to be the press secretary and you put it on your resume forever, and it's really big and it launches you into big jobs like maybe this. This is my congressman's press secretary. She's now the comms director for the Texas AFL-CIO. Previously, she spent about 4 years with Congressman Greg Caesar. Okay? She started working as the comms director when he was a city councilman. That's how far back it goes. She was working in like a party organization, and you go, what's her experience? Oh, she worked in like broadcast media and so all these things. Then she gets involved in the campaign, takes the transition to politics, spends years and years working for this guy, and then springboards it into a major position at a big organization like Texas AFL-CIO. That's how these things usually work. You usually don't get 2 months of being a press secretary for a congressperson. Are we crazy? I don't think so.
Alexis, I'll be honest, I had no idea you were a press secretary now. What's it like being a press secretary? Is that weird? Does it feel awesome or a little bit gross?
It's exciting to be part of an office that is trying to right the ship and promote an agenda that is actually, I think, aiming to help the American people. Our agenda is very consistent with the things that the American people voted for on November 5th, for, of course, President Trump's agenda, outing a lot of the things that the Biden administration tried to bring into our government, and, of course, saving money, respecting American people and the things that they want and their rights and the Constitution.
And the Constitution and things that we like, and freedom and transparency and zero specifics. And, that's what we do. That's what talking heads go up and do. They say things that mean nothing, but they sound really good. And nobody's mad at you for saying nothing. If you're pretty, turns out none of that stuff was anything. There was nothing in there of substance. Absolutely nothing. Again, maybe that's why she doesn't have the job, because she wasn't good at it. Or maybe she got something else going on. And we don't have to say what it is. We can just ask questions on it because this is America and we're allowed to have freedom of speech. We thought we were, at least. And maybe because of the things that we're going to see over at the Fight with Kash Foundation and the guys that are out there. Remember, this is the news story. The news story is the last news story before he became FBI director, second to last one, is that he's out there talking with Aaron Cohen about how Israelis can't take on Iran alone, because that's my biggest problem as an American. I really care so desperately and deeply about Israel. Oh, wait, I don't. You guys will know I have this America-only attitude. I don't care about Iran. I don't care about Israel. I don't care what happens with them. I don't think the Jews did it all, whatever the hell that means. I had a bunch of DMs, by the way, from people that are like, you're in on it. Like, now they're coming for you. It's the Jews. Also dumb. But it has to be something more simple. I pissed off the FBI director. He had to reinstate a bunch of dudes. He had to eat crow. He had to leave the country so they could be reinstated because he was blocking it all along. Because he was the problem. DOJ went around his back to get it done. And so the next thing is, you didn't see a single announcement like celebrating, like, we're welcoming back Garrett Boyle and Steve Friend, and like, these guys are great dudes. No. What you saw was radio silence. I think I actually have Kash Patel's, I think I actually have his Twitter feed up here on my, I probably do. Yeah, I do. Of course I do. Here's Kash Patel's Twitter feed. Are you guys ready? Look at it. And then we're going to talk about Cohen, and we're going to play a little promo real quick. So we're investigating the barbaric attack. This is the male subject. They're investigating the church shooting that happened in Minneapolis as domestic terrorism. I'm going to show you a little bit about why that's kind of silly. Subject, left multiple anti-Catholic, anti-religious references. Okay, so he's getting pushed into that. What do you see here? Federal arrest with partners, something about Salt Typhoon. That's a cyber invasion, as I referenced earlier in one of our ad reads. This is the shooting again. We're aware of a shooting. This is the day that the guys were reinstated. It's just a retweet of Summer Heat. Roll down a little further. You find out drug traffickers are the darkest people on earth. They're responsible for death. Nothing else about the whistleblower guys. This is Abbey Gate. Nothing about the whistleblower guys. This is the FBI did some arrests. Nothing about the whistleblowers. 26, Atlanta did some arrests. Nothing whistleblowers. Abbey Gate, no whistleblowers. 25, this is before the whistleblower. Interesting, huh? He's got nothing to say about the people that he said, breaking! FBI whistleblowers reinstated with the help of Chuck Grassley. And then they said, get the hell out of the country, you dummy. You screwed it up. Go away so that we can do this deal that your PR needs so desperately. And then he was like, oh, also, maybe from while I'm overseas, I can call my buddy Jesse Banal and drop a lawsuit on Kyle Seraphin, who's pointing out that I'm incompetent at this job and that I keep hiring people and moving them into places where they ought not to be. And he's surrounded by such sycophants at the FBI that nobody in the Office of General Counsel told him this is a really bad idea. When you bring things and allegations about honeypots with your girlfriend as the FBI director, they're not going to be able to keep you out of depositions. They're not going to be able to keep you out of requiring statements about your relationship. Do you want to drag all that out for your girlfriend? What a dumb thing to do. Real people just ignore it. I get called a Fed all the time. You don't see me dropping lawsuits on it. One, because I'm not best buddies with a guy who's going to drop frivolous lawsuits. And two, because why? It's America. You're allowed to have an opinion, even if you're dumb and wrong. So be it. I'll just give you, she's gone out there and had good humor about this many times. This is Cash's girlfriend talking to Megyn Kelly, totally not able to get access to the highest profile people in America. I've never once spoken to Megyn Kelly. Totally not being pushed out there and given positive PR. And of course, Kyle Seraphin did so much damage to her by just talking, even though they boosted the signal that it must be my fault that she's having these allegations long before. This is before we ever covered it.
Do you think this has been tough on him? Because, this is his base too.
I think so. I think that it's hard when you see anyone you love being attacked for something that you're doing. I've encountered it on the smaller scale as I've been a public figure for long enough to see, people try to picket my, family, try and find people online. This is something that people do. Hence, it's funny referring back to the ChatGPT investigation that was held on the SOT you played, that there aren't any interviews of my friends. Well, there aren't any interviews of my friends because I don't want the internet to attack them. I think it's pretty sensical. But no, he's dedicated to the American people as he always has been. I think that when people get into government, they don't just, snap into something else. People have the same mission that they did on the campaign trail and during the time before they were in government, which is really all I can say on that. But I think that, ultimately, it's been hard to see me come into the line of fire for something he's already dealing with.
Yeah. He's got a whistleblower charity and his values were promoting whistleblowers and getting a bunch of donations to help whistleblowers and people that were being attacked by the government to turn around and do that with the same organization. That's when we say that people's values don't change when they enter the government, except we can actually see in real time that they did. You're not doing the thing you said. Remember the guy that was talking about Epstein transparency left and right nonstop? How about the guy that went on Fox the other day? This is only like 3 months ago. I'm going to give you all the stuff about what happened on January 6th. Where is it? Where are the 26 sources? What are you going to tell us? What are you going to drop? Nothing. It's PR nightmare after PR nightmare. Maybe we could just pull this away. Maybe we could just go and focus on this guy that keeps punching me in the nuts and saying that I'm doing a crap job. And by the way, I think Kash Patel actually had to reinstate my buddies simply because I pointed out that Andrew Bailey wasn't coming in there to be the number 2 at an FBI, a sub-cabinet level position. That wasn't going to happen. And I think he didn't know that. I think he actually celebrated Andrew Bailey coming in and then realized, holy crap, Seraphin actually accurately pointed out. There's other people that have seen it as well. I talk to people in DC all the time. They're like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense to go from the top elected law enforcement position in a state that previously springboarded the predecessor into the Senate and then find out, I'm going to go be the number 2. I'm going to go share a desk with Dan Bongino and look over his shoulder while he finger paints. Yikes. I think he figured it out. And he's pissed because I announced it. Way too early, by the way. Way too early. You're not supposed to know stuff that easy. But Alex Jones said something the other day, and I agree with it. Whenever it's obvious, I know I'm right. And it's obvious. It's freaking obvious. You don't take a top tier local or state level politician and then have him jump into a non-national scene because none of you can name previous FBI deputy directors. It's not a springboard to anything. But God forbid you call out the person that they think is the best. That's kind of fun. We're going to talk about Aaron Cohen just a second here. Let me do an ad read for our folks over at Silent. This is going to come into play because one of the things this guy's talking about is scrubbing social media, which means being access to all of your apps and all the things that go on in the background. And maybe you also do not want to walk around with that tracking device in your pocket, constantly feeding information to God knows who. Your phone is a tracking device. Government agencies, big tech, corporate data brokers, cyber criminals, take your pick. They can all grab a piece of it. They all want your digital footprint. They don't even ask. They just take it. That's why I've got my phone in the silent bag that's sitting behind me. I'm going to take my laptop with me to the federal court today, and it's going to be in a silent bag. That's why Silent exists. It's slnt.com, promo code KYLE. slnt.com/Kyle is how you get there. Make sure you're using my name. You'll save 15%. These are not cheap products. These are well-made products, and there's a big difference. You can get cheaper ones. They just fail and they don't work. They have leaks. This is the same tech that's trusted by special operations teams. There are multiple law enforcement entities and military organizations that are currently using silent gear, including the Air Force. I saw some of the stuff they use. They make all these interesting things for protecting, global and cyber warfare tools. They protect electronic warfare tools. You can use them to block signal, avoid surveillance, secure comms, whatever. It also can be used just to give yourself a little bit of peace and silence because you don't want your phone going off. I use it regularly when I go down and have dinner with my family. I just toss the phone in there and then it doesn't ring and it doesn't beep on the Garmin watch I have. So I just don't have to be interrupted. Or we do it during the podcast. You guys can drop your phone into a silent bag by going to silent.com/KYLE. Use the promo code Kyle. Check out that E3 everyday backpack you see on the screen too. That's the one I have. That's what I'm going to be taking to the courthouse today. I love it. It's all geared up and ready to go. I never have to think twice. It's just got my stuff for mobile work, and that's where we go with it. To talk a little bit about this dude. Where is he at? Let me pull the slide up here. Boop. Okay. So Israel can't take on Iran alone. Kash Patel and Aaron Cohen talk about it. Kash Patel and Aaron Cohen. I guess that somehow relates to what we're talking about today. Let's talk about it today in so much as Aaron Cohen. He's the founder of a thing called Gideon that many of you are freaking out about. And here it is.
Correct. I am now about to launch Gideon, America's first ever AI threat detection platform built specifically for law enforcement. It scrapes the internet 24/7 using an Israeli-grade ontology to pull specific threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement. It's a 24/7 detective. It never sleeps, and it's going to get us in front of these attacks.
Would it have picked up on this, do you think?
100%. I wish my program would already be up. We're not launching until next week. I've got a dozen agencies on board, Trace. I just unloaded a major Northeast agency with over 2,700 sworn. This is America's early warning system.
Fantastic. What I would like to do is have something constantly sweeping the internet for quote unquote threats. Anybody who tells you that 100% this would have caught the threat is lying. That's not how intel works. I don't know what an Israeli grade threatscaping, like scraping technology is. That's not a thing. Israeli grade? What is Israeli grade? Why do we have to talk about that? It's the dumbest thing. It's like saying military grade. Anybody who's been in the military knows you can get way better stuff on the commercial market almost always. What they do when they do quote unquote military grade is they make it dumb proof because a lot of Joes out there will either eat their technology or run it over with a tank. And so they have to make it tougher than it would otherwise be, which means you sacrifice some of the features and the sensitivity. Great example, thermal technology. You can probably buy better thermal tech for cheaper if you are an individual private citizen. Because you're like, oh, I just want to be able to buy a thermal thing. And I don't care if it lasts for a scuba mission that's 100 meters underwater. And I don't care if you can run it over with a Humvee 17 times and drop it into a vat of acid and pull it out and still use it. You have to make it army proof when you want to sell to the military. That's what military grade. I don't know what Israeli grade is, though. Maybe it's something different. Here's this quick thing. I type in Aaron Cohen. The first thing that pops up is that he's an actor. He's an American Canadian. Guy's not born in the U.S. He's born in Canada. Grew up in Montreal, apparently. He's an actor. He's an ex-Israeli Special Forces agent, counterterrorism analyst, and he's best known for showing up on camera. And he's also known for doing things like showing how much money he needs for Gideon, the AI threat-powered prediction system. You can actually be a supporter. You could be a supporter of Gideon yourself. You can give them $25 to be a mission tier supporter. I don't know what you're supporting. I don't know if you're going to get any money out of it. I think you're just giving them money. And if you want to do it for cheaper, I think you can use promo code Orwell or Big Brother, and you can save 10%, right? Doesn't that sound right? There's no specifics on this, what you're getting. But anyway, he's the host of the Aaron Cohen Show, and they want to be able to do things like find grievance buildup, martyrdom language, tactical planning, school scouting, and extremist indoctrination. And that's what they say would 100% have been caught if they were trying to do this thing and go after this school shooter that we just found out about. So let's talk about the school shooter stuff. More things continue to come out about that. More bad things, I think, come out about it. And the things that come out specifically looks very cover-up like. Here's sort of the narrative. Again, the FBI director told you that they were going to go after somebody for domestic terrorism. I'm going to show you that FBI doesn't actually have a mechanism to refer to Catholics as domestic, or people who are going to target Catholics as domestic terrorists. We'll show you that in a second here.
I know there were dozens of interviews that have been conducted with relatives, friends, associates of the shooter, as well as people, obviously individuals, witnesses that were present at the scene yesterday. I know we have not been successful in talking to the shooter's mother yet at this time, but there continue to be efforts made to get that done.
That seems like the single most important person you should talk to. I don't know why you couldn't. Now, if she's represented by an attorney, maybe that makes sense. Lot of pity for what this woman is going through right now, but also some frustrations I think people are going to have because there's nothing Catholic. There's very little Christian about reaffirming somebody's lie about the fundamental biology that they live in. Like, there's the way, the light, the truth. The truth is capital T. It's not negotiable. It's not your truth. It's not a truth. It's the truth. Anyhow, it bothers me that this woman, if she's not talking to law enforcement, I could see why you wouldn't want to if there was some legal liability there, but pretty wild. Now you've got the United States attorney, I think, in this scene saying that everybody was hated. And so the same kind of language we see from the FBI director, I'm looking over at his feed, looks like this. It says, we must continue to investigate the barbaric attack. This was listed yesterday. Robert Westman, a male subject. He's obviously indicating that even though he was dressed up like a woman or a female, that he was having a female name that he had gotten changed to, that this is obviously someone who was doing a gender transition thing. The teams have gathered evidence. They've demonstrated this was an act of domestic terrorism motivated by hate-filled ideology. Multiple anti-Catholic, anti-religious references in the manifesto written on the firearms. There's a lot of crazy stuff written on there. Express hatred towards Jewish people. Got to throw that in for no reason, even though he shot up a Catholic church. Writing Israel must fall, free Palestine, 6 million isn't enough. Some other things that I saw, you guys will see that as well. I've got that video for you. I think you saw it yesterday. And then wrote an explicit call for violence against Donald Trump. Yeah, that's true. It wasn't on a firearms magazine. It was on the freaking, you know what? I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. It wasn't on a firearms magazine. It's a factually inaccurate statement. Some of you guys know what this thing is. Check this out. This is not a firearm magazine. This is an optic. That's what that is. It says kill Trump now. That is I don't know if it's like a clone of an aim point, something like that. That's not a magazine for anybody who has any questions. Again, that's the problem with having people that don't know stuff talking about it. All right. So the next line of questioning is that everybody was hated. And that's what the sort of the United States Attorney's Office has been trotting out because these people are still captured by ideology. I'm going to show you some video that's coming from the CDC. Very similar idea. Mid-level management. They're all engaged in the same thing they've been engaged in. They haven't changed. They didn't change personnel. That's why personnel's policy.
The shooter left behind hundreds of pages of writings. Writings that describe the shooter's plan, writings that describe the shooter's mental state, and more than anything, writings that describe the shooter's hate. Pure, indiscriminate hate. The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group imaginable. The shooter expressed hate towards black people. The shooter expressed hate towards Mexican people. The shooter expressed hate towards Christian people. The shooter expressed hate towards Jewish people. In short, the shooter appeared to hate all of us. The shooter's heart was full of hate. There appears to be only one group that the shooter didn't hate, one group of people who the shooter admired. The group were the school shooters and mass murderers that are notorious in this country.
I don't know who wrote this, but yeah. So you just brought up all the people that were hated, but here's the problem. He only went and shot one group of people, which were Catholics, which you didn't actually mention by name. Broadly speaking, that's a Christian thing. This is the FBI's domestic terrorism threat definitions. You guys may have seen this. RMVE, we talk about that a lot. It's racially motivated violent extremism, but that's generally white supremacy. The agave, that's probably most of you. Anti-government, anti-authority violent extremists. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to be extreme. You just don't have to like what's going on in your country. Most of the MAGA people were classified under that threat category. AR or ECO, that's going to be your animal rights or your Environmental violent extremists, minimal cases on that. It's one of the few things that you find on the political left, and that happens. Then you've got abortion-related violent extremism. Almost never is it a pro-choice ideology that gets investigated. Jane's Revenge, no arrests, doesn't happen. Pro-life people, absolutely. This is where you get your FACE Act violations. We thought this was going to get fixed, and it hasn't been. And then lastly, all other DT threats. The fun part about that is you can go and look at what that looks like. Here's your RMVEs. Let's dig down into it. Racially or ethnically motivated. They can go after racial, ethnic, or religious minorities, associated cultural centers. The problem is that Catholics are the plurality of Christians when it comes to the denominations of Christianity, and Christianity is the biggest single religion in the United States. So they're not a minority, so you don't get to fit into the religious minority category. You cannot find it. You're probably not going to be able to predicate it under domestic terrorism, and I'm going to be very excited to see how they do this and dance around their own assessments and their own words, which they've already made sense. At least we've got Fox News. Fox News is going to tell you that, and by the way, let's do the thing. They couldn't tie it to the church very well. It's really difficult. We had this stuff in minutes, by the way. We knew that the mom worked there and retired from the church and that he was a member of it. This is yesterday's press conference.
Can you talk at all about his connection to the church and school?
Yep. So the question was the connection of the shooter to the church and school. We do know that the shooter did attend mass there previously. The shooter did attend school, and the shooter's mother was an employee of the parish previously for some time. So obviously there is a connection between that shooter and this particular parish and this school there.
All right, great. So thanks for that. What does Fox News think's going on here? Because apparently they think it could be the weed. I'm not kidding.
I know the pot lobby, the weed lobby, or casual users would say, oh, my God, you guys are saying that you're trying to link this with cannabis. It's ridiculous. You know, alcohol is much worse than weed. I mean, they are going to, inundate both of us and our social media accounts with those comments. And to that, you say?
Sure. I mean, listen, in no single case can you ever prove causation. I mean, it would be very hard to do. The person would almost have to leave a manifesto saying, well, I was sane and then I used and I became insane. But I can tell you, again, having looked at these autopsy reports, you see cannabis use. You rarely see alcohol. Sometimes you see anti-anxiety drugs, prescription drugs like they're called benzodiazepines like Valium. But you over and over see cannabis. And there's a specific kind of crime that's committed here. It's not, listen, alcohol can certainly cause violence, but what it tends to do is escalate violence. So a bar fight gets more violent. This is a crime that is often committed against innocent people. And so, by the way, right now, the president of the United States, who obviously, very smart, very committed to public safety, is thinking about whether or not to what's called reschedule cannabis to a Schedule III drug, which would...
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever I see people, I always think that it's going to be benzos, it's going to be Valium, it's going to be that. That's what I worry about in mass shooters. That's what you guys are all worried about too. I'm sure you guys are in there. They're not worried about the SSRIs. They're not worried about the MAOIs, right? The antidepressant types. We never worry about that stuff. That wouldn't be a problem. Brought to you by Pfizer, maybe, possibly. Turns out they're seriously going to peg this on the weed is too strong. Those of us who have dealt with that. Now, there are some people that have had psychotic breaks because of like significant ingestion of synthetic marijuanas. And I've seen it. It's not great. And they get violent and stuff. They're usually not like really good at planning because they're usually in and out of sanity. And they usually go from like catatonic to being rage based. And we think that they're on something like PCP and then they turn around, they're catatonic again. So I've worked those cases in the emergency room. I've seen them out on the street as an emergency medical technician, as a paramedic. I've seen this kind of stuff happen. It's nice to see that they're not going to go ahead and hone in on the one thing that every single person that's in America looks at and goes, what kind of cross-sex hormones were you putting into that guy? What were his doctors prescribing him? You think it was because he was on Valium? You think he was on a benzo? Or do you think that maybe we were tweaking his brain chemistry and that things that regularly have, I don't know, side effects that list suicidality and homicidality might be part of this game? It's a great question. Seems totally reasonable that we would just blame it on weed. Why not? He brought up safety, which I thought was interesting. And I had this little moment about safety with people who are doing the right thing. The thing that I continue to hammer home on, the thing that I would have praised Kash Patel for doing, was de-weaponizing our government, which meant taking apart the mechanism that exists. We're not safer because of more government. We're not safer because there's government troops that are out on the streets. We're actually less safe, I think. I think we are in a real serious problem when you have to deploy military troops or National Guardsmen out on the streets, and you think that might be rolled out across America. Why? Because I saw that in Washington, D.C. One, it didn't do anything except make our traffic and our commute suck. This is when Biden first came in. This is a Democrat move. This is a totalitarian move. Now, there are ways you can do it, but it's usually probably like getting the FBI out of the way, stop claiming credit for what local police do and give them the money to go do the resources and let them solve the problems themselves. Democrats already voted for what they want. They want crime. If you don't want to be in a Democrat city full of crime, don't live there. That's what I do. That's what you can do too. If you live in a place that's full of crime and you vote and it doesn't change, leave. Period. The end. You know who used to say that? The deputy director of the FBI who used to have this podcast where he talked about it. Meanwhile, we've got Kristi Noem who's out there doing Fox News hits, talking about the things. There are people that are killing it and there are people that are not. This morning, the first thing on her tweet feed was that she's hanging out with an Israeli foreign affairs minister and saying, we're going to stop immigration, shore up the American border, and anti-Semitism, which is totally a threat to the homeland for some reason. It's like, all the people that think, oh, it's the Jews, the reason that they think that is because all this crazy stuff comes out and you guys randomly, regularly go and bow down obsequiously to a freaking threat country. We have Five Eyes partners. There are people, there are countries in the entire world, in the United Nations, that we lean on. They're called Five Eyes. And they are people that we share our most sensitive stuff with. We bring them into our sensitive spaces. I've had people from MI5 come in, MI6, come into the building when I was in the Washington field office. They would come in and work a joint investigation. We would help train their spies. Folks, we would bring in an MI6 future case officer who, by the way, would recruit agents, hopefully not Americans, and they would train by practicing to recruit Americans on our soil as part of their counterintelligence sort of training, as part of their tradecraft. And we were considered a friendly nation, then they would do it in a semi-hostile nation, and then they would deploy them into real scary places. We brought them into our building. We sat there and watched. We gave them access to our tech. We don't do that with Israel. Israel is a frenemy. It's an ally, but in name. There are many counterintelligence threat investigations into Israelis and into Israel specifically. It's broad spectrum. So acting like these people are the same as our real, like, serious allies, Great Britain, France, New Zealand, Australia, etc., like, that's how it's really done. Canada, they're different. There are tiers. Israel isn't in that tier. Calling them our greatest ally is weird. Anyway, this lady is out there. She's hawking, putting out the National Guard in the same way that you just heard the guy who's going to do Israeli-grade spying on you for your social media. I don't know where the audio went. That was Kristi Noem talking, but it just went away. That's not weird. Okay, well, we can't talk bad about Kristi Noem, but she was saying some things about how she was really excited and Americans can experience safety and that they're all over the place, that they're going to roll it out to every major city, and we got that. Here's the alternative. How about you de-weaponize our government? How about you dismantle huge swaths and chunks of it? There's one person that I see doing that, maybe two. It seems like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is getting pissed. People are pissed off at him because he's walking out the people that need to be. It looks like this. When you walk out bad actors, this reminds me of like maybe an FBI retirement or Merrick Garland leaving the DOJ where everybody stands and cheers. Okay. The doctor that they're showing out there, this is their monkeypox czar who was invited to the FBI, by the way, by the FBI diversity people to come and talk about being gay and being an ally. This is the dude who talks about like weird sexual practices, shows up with like Satanist stuff, right? They're cheering him out, they're shaking his hand. Oh my God, we're going to miss you so much. You've got the CDC director was told to step down and refuses and says Trump can't fire her. So that's one version of it. That's one way to do it. So that's RFK Jr.'s piece. And then you've got what Gabbard's up to, which is like getting rid of 40% of the intel apparatus. But we're also going to be getting AI scraping because we need to with Israeli-grade software.
The DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, also announced a major transformation of the agency. She's calling it ODNI 2.0, aiming to cut more than its size by more than 40%. That would save $700 million a year. Your reaction to that?
Well, I support that. In fact, we'll probably codify that in the upcoming Intelligence Authorization Act that we will be marking up next month. But I think she's on the right track. The ODNI has ballooned into a huge agency that really exceeds what it was stood up to do some 20 years ago. She's recognized that and wants to get back into the primary function it's supposed to serve, as opposed to, you know, this great bureaucratic bloat that has taken place over the last 20 years.
Congressman, before.
Isn't that nice? You've got a woman who was a Democrat forever, cutting $700 million out of the budget, 40% of the head count, wants to make intelligence smaller. You think it has something to do with the fact that they followed her? That she was nominated as a threat by the Biden administration using intel stuff, using Quiet Skies, which is under Kristi Noem? and it took them until just a couple of days ago to say that they're going to disband that program, we're actually hearing that one of the guys who promoted and actually put Tulsi Gabbard's name on the list for DHS, our friend Sonia Labasco and some of the people at the Air Marshals National Council are saying that the guy who actually put her name on the list to be followed, he's looking at being promoted to being the top guy at the TSA. Why, like, haven't we just proven the TSA isn't good and they don't do a great job? Again, if you're going to trade your privacy and your liberties for this sort of like nominal safety that's given you by the government, there's nothing conservative about that. It turns out Tulsi Gabbard, who was actually probably like an anti-gun lunatic leftist for a long time, has seen the light and is trying to reduce government and reduce government employees more than anybody else. Ain't that something? Turn of events. Again, once you've been part of the weaponized government, once you've been targeted by it, you have a little bit of a different instinct on it. And God bless her for that. I have another little clip here. This is actually parody. So I'm saying up front, this is not real. This is not a real clip, but it is kind of the attitude that we thought we were getting. I thought we could speak plainly in this administration and we could just call a spade, and we could just say, big government is a problem. Government surveillance is not ideal. We don't want the military walking around in American streets. And by the way, boys are boys, girls are girls. You can't make it up. Here's fake Donald Trump saying a fake thing. It's totally not Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump.
My fellow Americans, enough is enough. We need to call a spade a spade. Trans people don't exist. Let me say it again. Trans people do not exist. I can tape a stick on a horse's head, but that doesn't make it a unicorn. It's a horse, folks. Total horse. These are deeply disturbed individuals who have been manipulated by liars and psychopaths in positions of influence. They are on mind drugs, very powerful, and they're all addicted to porn. Porno is what some people call it, I believe. Very destructive to the mind and spirit is pornography.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not real, but he's not wrong. It does sound like Donald Trump, doesn't it? That guy does the best deep fakes of these things. Scary world we're living in, because that's the other problem. We're living in a world where people can take your face, take your voice, and make something that sounds exactly like what you'd expect Donald Trump to sound, if you know what Donald Trump would say. Isn't that a world that we want to live in? Anyway, I hate AI. I hate it scraping our information. I hate the idea that we're going to praise it. And then I hate the idea that we're going to somehow act that our intelligence agencies are out there operating for good. Like, they're not. We know that. And the same people that were working there before are still working there now. And thank God you got people that are trying to actually investigate it. But while Tulsi Gabbard is trying to, quote unquote, investigate, she's running the dig and they're trying to figure out what the conspiracy looked like. Why would Kash Patel be in Scotland? I don't even think we have an ALAT there. That's a assistant legal attaché. I don't think we do. Maybe he thought Scotland Yard was in Scotland. And that's where he was going to go interface. And he got stuck up there, right? Or not. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why our FBI director is hanging out for a week in Scotland if he's not playing golf. I look forward to seeing what these pictures are that he did. I'm sure they found some way to make it a work trip and totally not get the hell out of our country while we figure out this mess that you made, which is what it appears to do. And by the way, they just stepped in it again yesterday with this launching of this lawsuit, which is just ridiculously weird. That's it for today's show. I'm going to get on the road. I'm going to go and do a negotiation with the DOJ, which is not going to negotiate fairly with us, which is probably not going to give us anything. And so I expect it. By the way, there's a confidentiality agreement on there, so I will not be able to announce anything about anything discussed in there. I'm going to find out whether or not we can say. I'll just tell you, if we get no news, then I will tell you that the lawsuit continues. That's what I'll do. That's our little agreement here. I will tell you our lawsuit remains and it is going on, and hopefully we get discovery. And then we'll share with you all the stuff that they said about people who are filthy, unvaccinated, whatever the heck they used, because I know there's some real evil language in there, and you guys do too. You can probably get the sense that I don't much care for government. Maybe you guys are as well. Here's your palate cleanse as we go into the weekend.
I get up at 4:45 in the morning and I don't see a sign of the government anywhere. Every single day for 8.5 hours, I exchange my time for labor. I don't see the government anywhere, except for on Thursdays. Thursdays, I get my paycheck. That's when the government shows up. That's when they feel they are entitled to split half of the currency I made for trading my time, my skills, my labor. This goes on throughout the year, where I'm responsible to keep records of all of this. At the end of the year, it's my responsibility to prepare all that documentation for them to review it. They then determine if their cut was large enough. If I don't meet their schedule, I face fines, fees, or the threat of being locked up in one of their cells. I guess some people call this taxation, but it doesn't meet my definition. To me, that sounds a lot more like fraud, embezzlement, and slavery.
Guys, got a point. Make sure you guys are following us over on Rumble, on X, on YouTube. Look for the Sunday Sit Down, which is coming up with Bill Taylor. You can follow him at RETFBI. Actually, some of his posts were featured today. I didn't give him credit, but he gets credit. Follow us on locals at KyleSerafin.com. God bless you. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you guys after this long drive.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.